right. Welcome to Canada. Us up here in the Canadian White North. Welcome the tennis world to our home soil to play in the National Bank Open in Toronto for the men and Montreal for the women. It's going to be a great week and a bit here. The draws are out, and I'm going to break down the routes to the final for Carlos Alcaraz. Are we going to be calling him Carlos Canada at the end of this week? Is he going to take home the title, or is Daniil Medvedev going to defend his title here? We had Casper Ruud throwing a pitch at the Blue Jays game. We've got Alcaraz warming up here on home soil, and we will see how it goes. We got a stacked draw in the women's side of things as well, so it's going to be good. Let's get into the action here on The Slice. Welcome to the show. All right. Welcome back to the show. The Slice is back on after a hiatus after Wimbledon. We all need a break after Wimbledon. It gets really busy. But we've been keeping an eye on things. No shows, bit of a break, but we've been seeing things happen. We saw Stefanos Tsitsipas win a title, Los Cabos. We saw what was going on in the little weird clay swing after Wimbledon in Europe. But now it's time to get the show back on the road here in Canada. As you can see, I've got my flag here, very patriotic about my country. If you're wondering, I'm not going to be in Toronto this year or Montreal. I'm here at home at the studios for the Slice. And why am I not going to be there? Because Tennis Canada did not give me a media accreditation this year. They gave the Slice 2 accreditations last year, Toronto and Montreal. We had Brendan in Toronto, Julian in Montreal. The year before that, it was virtual. I was there. But they said this year the ATP has instructed them to only credential, quote, high-profile news outlets. And according to Tennis Canada, the Slice, the only Canadian new media, tennis media, does not qualify as a high-profile outlet. So if you think that's ridiculous, I also do. You can maybe go on Twitter and see the post I made about it. But yeah, anyways, we don't need that to bring great content. We don't need to be there. Honestly, we lose money when we go to places like that. So we'll just be at home watching these guys from here, taking in all the action and giving you the slice. We'll probably rely on some people on the ground, some of our friends in the media who are high profile, to give us some content. But enough of that. We will take a look at the draws. Like I said, we've got big news. So the top 4 seeds, obviously, at the National Bank Open in Toronto for the ATP are Carlos Alcaraz, Daniil Medvedev, Casper Ruud, and Stefanos Tsitsipas, because obviously Djokovic is not there this year. Djokovic, after his loss in the Wimbledon final, is taking some time, as he often does, skipping Toronto or Montreal and going straight to Cincinnati to then play the US Open. For those of you wondering, yes, Novak Djokovic, thankfully, will be able to play in North America this year after he was, in my opinion, crazily not allowed to play last year. So he should not have any issues with vaccination requirements this year to play in the U.S., but he's just not playing up here in Canada. So yeah, Carlos flying high still since Wimbledon, obviously, where he took home the title in shocking, amazing fashion. One of the most wild and impressive victories we've seen in a major in a long, long time. So he's flying high. We got Daniil Medvedev, who took some time off since Wimbledon, I believe. Casper Ruud lost in the Swedish Open in the final to Rublev, and then to Artur Fils in, I think, in Hamburg. So he's now here. He's playing some golf. I saw he played in Oakmont in the U.S. and then at the National Golf Club of Canada. So I'm going to try and get him to play some golf out here in British Columbia when he comes to Vancouver for the Laver Cup, which is in Vancouver. If you have not yet seen that, now you have. That would be epic if he, he will be out here, but it'd be cool if he could play some golf because it looks like he's a pretty good golfer. So yeah, Tsitsipas is the 4th seed, the 5th ranked player in the world. He will become the 4th ranked player now. He will hop over Casper Ruud after winning Los Cabos, beats de Minaur in the final. That's a good win for Tsitsipas. That is Stefanos Tsitsipas's first title in 2023, his first title since Mallorca, great place, in 2022, in the summer of 2022. So over a year drought for Tsitsipas of titles, and then he wins the little 250 in Los Cabos. Can that give him some good momentum coming into the National Bank Open here in Canada, and then Cincinnati, and then US Open? I think really he is searching for form, but he's also searching for a really good run at a major again. I mean, he was in the final of Australia. Never felt like he was super that close to winning that title, though. Is he able to find something in his game that he hasn't found, that he kind of maybe lost while he's been infatuated with Paula Badoza? So we'll see. In other news, Baez beats Thiem in Austria. It was a big week for Dominic Thiem. I was like, you know what? Dominic Thiem has his chance to win his first title since the US Open 2020. Talk about title droughts, but it wasn't to be. As Sebastian Baez, the small Argentinian, finds some form and gets some wins under his belt, shocks and breaks the heart of the Austrian crowd. Thiem can't do it. It's a kind of 6-3, 6-1 final. Not very good on Thiem's part, but good week overall for Dominic Thiem. We saw that last year in the clay swing after Wimbledon. He wasn't really able to carry it on, so we hope that can be different this time. Thiem really just needs wins on a hard court. He needs multiple wins on hard courts to get it done. And then right now we got the final going on in Washington. Dan Evans over Griekspoor in the first set, but they're still playing as we're filming here. So we will see what else is going on. And then also Coco Gauff, she won the ladies event in DC. That's big for her after her first round exit in Wimbledon. She's got Brad Gilbert. I just saw from the Craig Shapiro Tennis Podcast. I just saw from him that, and just from the tournament as well, that she's got Brad Gilbert coaching and immediately wins the tournament on a trial basis with Brad Gilbert. So that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting to me. Let's take a look at the draws. Why don't we? At the routes to the final for the top four guys. But first of all, let's just look through this draw. What's interesting here? All right, we got Alcaraz in the first at the top, of course. And he could play Ben Shelton in the second round. Wouldn't that be a match? Odds are Shelton might lose to Zapata Morales, but either way, if Shelton could get through that, that'd be an amazing, exciting matchup against Alcaraz. In the second round, or let's just go through the matchups first. We got Hurkacz there in Alcaraz's quarter. We got Tommy Paul there in Alcaraz's corner as well, and Holger Rune. So, we got Francisco Cerundolo, Alexi Galarneau, friend of the show, all in this very young top quarter. That's going to be an amazing quarterfinal matchup if it happens. Rune versus Alcaraz. Then we got Tsitsipas in his quarter versus, with Sinner in his quarter, and Felix Auger-Aliassime, and Borna Coric, who's now 14th seed, Sebastian Korda, Dimitrov, very dense. Andy Murray's in there, Matteo Berrettini. So just, again, as we expect in the Masters 1000, but even with Djokovic not here, very densely packed talent pool. Andre Rublev, the number 6 seed, is in Casper Ruud's quarter, the third quarter with the 3rd seed. We've also got Francis Tiafoe and Alexander Zverev in there. Again, Lehechka, Nakashima, Wolf, Griekspoor, Raonic versus Tiafoe first round. That's big time. Very dense as well. And the last quarter, Daniil Medvedev's, he has Taylor Fritz, who just won in Atlanta. In that quarter, we got Gabriel Diallo, friend of the show, wild card to play Dan Evans in the first round. Dan Evans is in some good form. Maybe Diallo can harness the energy from the crowd. Alex de Minaur, Cam Norrie, Lorenzo Musetti, Kokkinakis. So, yeah, very dense draw. Let's look at Alcaraz's route to the final. Why don't we? Shelton, like I said, potentially in the second round. And then in the third round, Hubert Hurkacz or Bublik or Kecmanovic or Garin. But Alcaraz, after what he just did at Wimbledon, you got to be confident in Alcaraz. Then in the quarterfinals, either Tommy Paul or Holger Rune. Tommy Paul, if you do remember, beat Alcaraz, I believe, in Montreal last year. Might have been Cincinnati. Might be getting that mixed up, but it was one of the two. Will that happen again? We will see if Tommy Paul can get there. But he's playing Diego Schwartzman in the first round. Tommy Paul is, and Holger Rune gets a bye, obviously. So Alcaraz can play, like I said, Rune or Paul in the quarterfinals. And then in the semifinals, he's either going to be playing Jannik Sinner or Stefanos Tsitsipas or Felix Auger-Aliassime, but probably one of either Tsitsipas or Sinner. So in reality, this is about as tough as it could get as far as a route for Alcaraz. And then in the final, he could either play, Ruud, Rune, Fritz, or Rublev, or sorry, not Rune, and Medvedev. So all in all, let's just be honest, that's a fairly tough draw for Carlos Alcaraz. But really, after what he did, like I said, at Wimbledon, getting all the pressure from Djokovic, not cracking, finding his best tennis, showing that he really is the number one player in the world right now. It's Carlos Alcaraz's tournament to lose, if you ask me. I think they might be calling him Carlos Canada at the end of the week, because my prediction right now, I'll just tell you halfway through the show, is that Carlos is going to get it done in Canada. But it's going to be super interesting to see him play again on the Canadian hard courts. I think hard courts is like his best surface, and he just won Wimbledon, after making the semifinals of the French Open. So, I mean, this kid, there's nothing more to say. We all know what Carlos is about. Let's look at Daniil Medvedev, though, draw or route to the final. If we go down to the bottom of the draw here, he could play Matteo Arnaldi or Vasek Pospisil, wildcard, another Canadian wildcard who's wearing his own logo on a shirt, which is a little weird if you ask me. But to each his own. He's an interesting cat who rolls to his own beat. Lorenzo Musetti, number 16 seed, could play Medvedev in the third round. That'd be interesting. Then Medvedev could play Fritz or Cam Norrie in the quarterfinals, and then either Rublev or Ruud in the semifinals. So a little bit more quiet, a little bit less fire and pizzazz on the bottom half, I think, compared to the top. But it's still going to be a great tournament, even without Novak Djokovic. Maybe the competition level won't be as there. Maybe it will be taken less seriously than Cincinnati, or obviously the US Cincinnati leading up to the US Open, as we're thinking about who's the top seeds, who has the best chance, who's the highest, biggest favorite coming in. Toronto will be a show, but I think Cincinnati will be the bigger show because Djokovic will be there, and we'll see what happens then. Now let's look at the ladies in Montreal, who, again, as I said earlier, have a packed field as well. They got the top 3 players in the world. Well, they got the top 4 and all there. So, but really the big 3, Swiatek, Sabalenka, Rybakina, all here. And we got Swiatek playing potentially Pliskova in her first match, but she's in a quarter with Sakkari. Pegula, 4 seed, is in a quarter with Goff. Caroline Garcia is in a quarter with Rybakina, and Petra Kvitova is in a quarter with Sabalenka. Where's the Canadians? We got Bianca Andreescu, wild card, there to play qualifier first. That's good for her, and then she could play Kvitova. She's in the Sabalenka Kvitova quarter there. Where's the other Canadians? Rebecca Marino, wild card. She will also play qualifier. That's looking good. Then we've got Caroline Wozniacki as well in here with a wild card from Denmark, coming out of retirement to play. We've seen that before on the women's tour. We've seen that before, haven't we? She could play golf if she takes out, let's not look over that, holy smokes, Marketa Vondrousova. Oh, I don't know, Wimbledon champion, if that rings a bell. Where's the other Canadians? Leila Fernandez with a wild card as well, also to play a qualifier. All 3 of the Canadian wild cards to play a qualifier. And she could play Beatriz Haddad Maya or Paula Badosa in the second round. So tough draw there for Leila as well. It's going to be super interesting. After the bit of a wild ride in Wimbledon for the top seeds, Ons Jabeur really coming through and, kind of blowing up, bowing out in the final, really not playing her best. She is not playing here in Montreal. So we're going to see who comes out of Montreal with the best form. Will it be Swiatek? Will it be Sabalenka? Will it be Rybakina? Or will it be a dark horse coming through to win? So we'll see. So that's a preview and prediction of the Canadian Masters, aka the National Bank Open, presented by Rogers in Toronto and Montreal. Shout out to our sponsor, AG1. If you haven't yet, check out the link below. And if you thought about starting AG1 and you're going to use anyone's link, now's the time to do it. Supports the show. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for following me on Twitter. I will be keeping you updated on all that and some extra news I have about where I will be in Canada at a different tournament coming this week on our Instagram channel. So follow at the Slice Steven on Twitter and at the Slice Tennis on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks for being here. Let's get rolling in Canada. Oh, Canada, it's going to be great. And we will see you as the tournament gets rolling.